answer the phone, but we have a secretary that does, and I field most of the complaints. So if there's anything that you don't want to talk about tonight, or you have information that you think could be helpful in the fight against getting these drugs off the street, call that number. We're very responsive. Again, I appreciate the invitation from the district attorney's office. I saw you were very attentive, and if you guys ever need any assistance in your community when it comes to education prevention, we have resources that we work with hand in hand that we can guide you to who to look for and actually get some more education on the subject. Again, thank you.
We're going to open it up to Q&A. If anybody has a question for John or for Sergeant Leparotti. Is that close?
Yeah, very good.
Good, okay. Or Tom Caltagirone. Questions in? Sure. Okay, go ahead, Sam.
Put your hand up. My name's Carl, and I am convinced that
I'm
we
operating the camera.
must be much tougher on the drug pushers
Yeah.
and the people
Okay.
from Mexico.
Yeah, bye.
And we gotta put them in jail for much more time than what we're letting them get away with.
We appreciate that, and we are working towards that, but I can tell you that the sentences that are being served have gotten a little different from what they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, because mandatories have been ruled unconstitutional. So, and that was not really, that was kind of a local Pennsylvania Supreme Court case, but if they're involved in drug distribution, they're getting some serious sentences. They are.
Another question over here. Good evening to the sergeant. On my squad in '69, I believe it was, 1969, the lead actor Michael Cole did a public announcement after a show about heroin, asking people to get help for it. So the heroin problem actually started in the 30s with the music industry, the jazz musicians. So have you guys been asleep for the past 80 years on this, or why are you bringing it to our attention now? Is it just because it's an economic, we're losing it the battle economically? And you said that Mexico's bringing in the drugs, but they also, our government said that they were the problem of our assault weapons, but actually our federal government was giving them the assault weapons. And the heroin problem, does our federal government allow heroin in from Afghanistan, because that's part of our Middle East policy with them?
Well, our heroin problem has exploded in the United States. A lot of the experts put the onus on the fact that the pharmaceutical companies have flooded the market with opioids, and when a person can't get the opioid medicine like OxyContin, Vicodin, Percocet, then they go to heroin. So that is what's caused a lot of the explosion in the number of heroin cases that we're seeing, and we're also seeing the Mexican cartels are flooding our market. So clearly, we need to do something about Mexico. That's a definite.
Question in the rear here.
Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment. I have a whole bunch of different medical problems, and being on narcotics actually was covering one of the main ones, which was a neuromuscular disease. And I got to the point where I was not feeling like myself after being on prescribed narcotics, taking them as they were prescribed for several years. And I just one day decided I'm not doing this anymore. And my doctor wanted me to go off slowly, weaning down. And I was just so frustrated about the situation and how I felt that I went cold turkey and went to a hospital and said, just keep me comfortable. I don't want any more narcotics. And I came to research the disease that they did find, the neuromuscular disease that was causing most of the pain, and found a program with IVs that now I get every 4 months for a week, that take away enough of my pain that I can function and think straight. And I have an alternative now that if they would have just kept giving me, and I would have allowed them to keep giving me narcotics, I would have been not functioning in life and not out doing things and not having value in my life. But I kept pushing forward to find something different. And I'm just wondering how much of that could happen for other people. I persevered, and my doctor learned a whole lot about with the situation with me and how he prescribes narcotics. He looks at things a lot differently now than when he did prescribe quite a large amount.
Okay, lady.
So, I just encourage, doctors sometimes offer me stuff and I just decline it. So they look at me kind of funny, but I just won't.
Right there.
Stand up, sir.
Hey, I want to applaud you for what you do. I work for drug and alcohol rehab. Thank you for that. I work for criminal justice, and the question that was asked here, I've been in it for 38 years. In the 80s, you had the cocaine phenomenon. The heroin growers tried to take back their market, which they did effectively by making it cheaper and more potent. Okay? The stuff is now grown in Mexico, where it was grown in the East before, and they're bringing it in. We've also unfortunately seen, and I'm sure you gentlemen have seen it, it's laced now with fentanyl, making overdoses
Yes.
crazy. But this is marketing. These people from Mexico, this is marketing. It's cheap, it's purer than you've ever seen before. And I'm glad for the aggressiveness, because I follow you guys in business. But we're now looking at another drug being laced in the heroin. I can't pronounce, but maybe you can, Sergeant. Fentanyl? Yes, that's it, which is a sedative for elephants and large animals. In 38 years in this business, I've never seen it that bad.
I think like 20-some people just overdosed in Ohio on that.
Yeah.
In a matter of hours. Yeah, prevent seizure.
They're also putting fentanyl
Yeah.
in cocaine now.
Yes, exactly. And fentanyl is killing people left and right. And we are seeing it all the time in our toxicology reports. So fentanyl is very, very, very dangerous.
If we close our Mexican border, how much of this problem will be eliminated?
I think that they bring the drugs in covertly all over the place. And I think that somehow, and I've said this time and time again, we have to get some federal government involvement in some economic sanctions against Mexico, because their own government in Mexico is doing nothing to combat the cartels. We need some help.
Hi. I lost a nephew in February, and I just lost another one July 14th. Both addicted to started with painkillers, went to heroin, both found behind locked doors, dead by themselves. And what I noticed with both of my sisters, everything was hush-hush. I was actually informed they were doing better, they were in recovery, they were both arrested, you know, went through the jail terms. The one was actually still going through sentencing. And I don't think there's enough support for the families. They don't, they let the kids out of jail. I shouldn't say kids because they were both in their 30s. But I don't think the families, like my sisters, didn't really know how to handle this. It seemed like they were catering to them and doing everything for them. And
Well,
there's no training.
There's a lot of resources out there now. The Council on Chemical Abuse is in Berks County, has a very big educational assistance out there and trying to educate families. You know, we're blessed with the fact that we have Cairn Foundation here in Berks County. They've been and done a lot recently to educate the public. But you're right. I mean, the resources, it's tough. It's costly. Treatment is costly, and it's a tough battle. And especially when you're dealing with treatment for heroin addicts, they don't get cured in 30 days. They don't. It takes a long time, and it's a lengthy effort. We're seeing a lot more medically assisted treatment programs now, where they're having addicts get a dosage of a certain type of drug that will turn their brain off from seeking heroin. Vivitrol is I think, the wave of the future, and it is a block. It blocks the craving for heroin. So we're going to see where treatment takes us, but it's cheaper to treat an addict than to throw him in jail. And we want to keep our costs down.
It seems to me like there's a shame, though. They hid a lot. My sisters hid a lot from the rest of the family.
The what?
My sisters.
Oh, yeah, well, you know, the thing is, so many people are now affected by addiction, and I think there's a lot of resources out there now. People are understanding that addiction is a disease, and I think that the public is becoming educated on this, but there's a long learning curve, but it is a disease.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, we got one over here.
Hi, my name's Kimberly, and I have a company called Bloom and Lotus Inc. And I have researched for the last 5 years addiction, and I actually leveraged my entire savings to open an incubator business to employ women in recovery. I also have a son that was labeled with a learning disability of double deficit dyslexia. If I can take just one moment, because once the child becomes entrenched in addiction, it's a runaway freight train. We have to precede the war on drugs with the war on education. The No Child Left Behind came into existence in 2001, where we tried to put square pegs into round holes. These children process differently. They have frontal lobe issues. They don't learn the same way that everybody else does. What happens when they are in a school environment for 8 hours being misunderstood and they can't understand the curriculum? They go home and they self-medicate. And thus begins the cycle. I've seen it with the women that I employ. Most of them would have been labeled ADD, ADHD. When you give them a task that they can tap into, you change that reward system because it's a job well done. It's not the F on the report card. For any veterans around here who understand, I'm sure, what PTSD is and how it takes the person out of their own body and out of their own mind, this is what is happening to our children in the education system. They go in there with such anxiety. Am I going to pass today? Am I going to be called on today? How am I going to explain how stupid I am because I've gotten an F on yet another test, even though I sat there and I tried to do my best? So I consult with families, I consult with kids, and really, if you want to stop this, in my opinion, we have to look at stopping it before it starts, and we need to look at the education system.
We got time for another question? Sure. First of all, thank you very much for coming. I have a question.
A friend of mine's son overdosed, he passed away. My question to you, should that family have turned over his cell phone at that time? And if he did, do you need a search warrant for that or what?
We, yes, we want that cell phone, and when we respond to overdoses, we generally confiscate the cell phone. We can get into the cell phone. If the person dies, we don't need a search warrant. If the person lives, we generally would need a search warrant to get into the cell phone. But that cell phone is probably the most important factor that we, evidence-wise, that we can utilize to identify the dealers of heroin and other drugs. Any others?
Hi, just a few questions. First off, the drug paraphernalia that I've been finding in Temple, what do we do with that? Do we throw it away? Do we take it to the older police? And another thing is the new drug Flocka that's they've been finding in Florida. I don't know if you have any information on that for around here. Thank you.
Yeah, Flocka is another synthetic, and it's another attempt to put a narcotics into our market, and it actually, they target college kids with Flocka. But no, we haven't seen it in Berks County, but I can tell you, eventually what's happening on nationally ends up in Berks County. But on the other matter with the paraphernalia, it depends. So if you're finding paraphernalia at certain places all the time, I would call Muhlenberg Police, or wherever you live, have a police department. Every police department in the county has a drug task force officer assigned to it, or they know how to get a hold of us. I'm sorry. But so if you're finding it or you suspect a house, but if it's just like a bag or something like that, you can pick it up and throw it away. There's not much we can do with that. There's not much follow-up we can do with it. But if you suspect a house, an individual, a car, certain meeting locations, you let an officer know, they know how to get a hold of us.
Any other questions? One more? We have one more. Where is it?
Hi, my name is Jimmy Eric. I think something like what they, I lost my husband over a year ago. But I had 2 pills, 2 things of pills. Both done in November. The oxycontin and morphine. And he had that thing one of the last doctor, and they gave him that golden shot. And after that, all this stuff, and also we just went back on March 2nd. And I went and talked to the lady at the hospital with the palliative care, and she said, well, we're looking at getting off all these drugs and that. And she didn't think he was ready to die, but he did. And I need to take an opioid and for arthritis, because 4 years ago, I almost died by the medicine I took. Put a hole in the vein of my colon. And I can't take any NSAIDs. So I have to take Norco.
Some people do need to take it, but it's, if it's not abused, it's okay. It's when it's abused. All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your attention, and we appreciate educating the public at any time. It's very important that you learn about this problem. Thank you.
And we would like to thank John and Sergeant Liberace and give them a big round of applause for what they do. And just remember, folks, everybody sitting in this room, it's true, somewhere you're affected by this. Even if it's just somebody you know. And don't be afraid to speak up. I have in the past. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be talking to this gentleman afterwards of something I know. or something I suspect in a certain place. And that's what you need to do too. In my nature of business, in real